When a state identifies a policy goal that lacks a democratic mandate, it faces a foundational barrier. The direct implementation of such a goal creates a state of friction that the existing system cannot absorb. This is the architect's dilemma, a state of strategic paralysis, where a government's desired outcome is completely obstructed by the social framework it operates within. In contemporary British political strategy, this dilemma centers on a specific objective: achieving a massive demographic shift through the deportation of non-natives. The architects recognize that this goal resides outside of current social norms, meaning any direct pursuit would trigger an immediate rejection from the dominant hegemonic narrative. Proposing this policy openly through transparent, linear channels leads to the results shown here. The connection fails. The barrier of the hegemonic narrative blocks the state's path. Architects explicitly identify that a frontal assault on the status quo would meet opposition from the left and the right. In this context, a transparent proposal is viewed by the state as political suicide. Because this direct path is obstructed, the state views the traditional democratic vector as a source of friction that must be bypassed to achieve its original intent. To move past this paralysis, the state pivots to a nonlinear dialectic, weaponizing the environment to dissolve resistance. The strategy shifts. The state seeks to bypass the public mandate by manipulating the environment that informs it. This pathway relies on the orchestration of a synthetic crisis, a surgical method of bypassing democratic friction. By manufacturing extreme social conditions, the state creates the specific requirements needed to justify its predetermined goal. Reports of policy failure or border incompetence overlook the strategic utility of this instability. This engineered chaos functions as the mechanical engine required to manufacture the conditions for policies the public would normally reject. The mechanical core of this strategy is the problem-reaction-solution logic, a three-stage cycle designed to simulate a public mandate. The process begins in the first chamber with the importation phase, focusing on the strategic disruption of the status quo. The state initiates a massive, unmanaged population influx to shatter the existing social balance. The state utilizes this unmanaged influx to overwhelm infrastructure and induce perpetual social friction. While the influx creates friction, the state concurrently marginalizes the native population through legal and resource inequity. Treating native residents as second-class citizens creates a double standard that intentionally delegitimizes the existing social contract. This overloading of the social structure shatters the established order, creating a vacuum of authority. By withdrawing the protections of the old social contract, the state ensures the citizenry feels abandoned and desperate for a restoration of order. This physical instability provides the environment for a deeper assault on the public's sense of reality. We move to the second chamber, the psychological forge. This stage aims to transition the public through an environment of total exhaustion. The target of this phase is ontological security, the sense of stability and reliability people derive from traditional social norms. The forge first applies social pressure. The physical presence of a vast new population, paired with a government posture that devalues the native, creates an inescapable environment of tension. As the state continues to subvert traditional norms, this security is eroded. The public begins to feel their traditional world and its safety have been permanently erased. When the crisis becomes intolerable, the public reaches a tipping point, a hegemonic shift in the collective mood. The forge exhausts the public until passive frustration transforms into an active, urgent demand for the state to intervene. At this breaking point, the citizenry has been forged into a mass of volunteers for the state's hidden agenda. This transformation relies on a paradox: how a population known for stability and openness is moved to demand radicalism. This is achieved by weaponizing national virtue, a concept known as the pendulum of the Stoic soul. The pendulum begins at a center point of harmony and stoicism. Stable national characters naturally seek systemic equilibrium and social harmony. The state applies intolerable friction to the environment. Because the public desires harmony, the loss of security forces a violent swing in the collective soul toward reactionary demand. The state forces the citizenry to move from its natural position of welcome to a position of demanding the very radicalism they once opposed. the people's virtues are turned into tools of their own manipulation, securing their compliance through the engineering of their reality. In the final chamber, public desperation aligns with the state's original objective. This is the inversion of agency. The public now demands the exact policy architects desired all along. Their ultimate victory operates on the maxim, they will think it's their idea. By ghostwriting the public's demands, the state offloads the moral and political costs of radical action onto the citizenry. The architects appear to simply be listening to a demand they carefully authored for the citizenry, neutralizing the original bipartisan opposition. Dissenters are no longer fighting the state. They are forced to argue against what is perceived as the visceral will of the people. The journey from strategic paralysis to absolute mandate is a closed loop, converting resistance into demand. By the cycle's end, a once rejected radical imposition is sought as a necessary rescue. This system redefines state control for the modern era. Authoritarianism is defined here by its methodology, the surgical subversion of reality to bypass the collective will. By replacing transparent discourse with controlled psychological cycles, the state ensures the citizenry becomes the primary advocates for a strategy designed for them from the start.